Yo, what's good? I'm about to tell and explain my experience when it came to my one sole year at prep school. East Coast American prep school, man, it's different. I'm sure each region and each school has their different customs, has their different environments of how it's ran and how things are. Even in different countries, I know in the EU, they got their own set of different boarding schools. Hashtag Harry Potter. You know what I'm saying? There's co-ed, there's all girls, there's all boys. The one I went to was an all boys school, so this is coming from a perspective of, at the time, I was a senior, I was a postgraduate. Not gonna name the school, not gonna say what the exact region was, but I'll give a hint, just for all y'all that are wondering out there. This was in the Northeast, so there were some schools such as Hotchkiss, Salisbury, Cheshire Academy, just to name a few. So this was an experience that I want to explain, and I kind of want to let everybody know, and mainly for the people that are actually going into boarding schools or going to something similar, all boys prep. These are some of the real things that y'all are going to experience and you guys are going to go through. And I'm not going to shy away from saying the tea or saying some things that happened in my experience that I think are some crazy stories that happened. And I want to explain and see what y'all think and comment and share, and if this is something that you guys have experienced when you went there or something similar. Hopefully I don't drop too many hints and people realize what's going on and who's explaining it. You know what I'm saying? So hope you guys enjoy the video, and I'm going to get real and raunchy and tell you how it really is. First things first, obviously prep school is just like a college. You know, you have your dorms, you have everyone in close living establishments, old school style. These days in college, everyone has their own individual room with 5 to a whole dwelling. But in prep schools, you have 2 or maybe at most 3 to a room. I don't know, it might have been 4, but everyone's in the same room. It's all boys. You can kind of understand there may be some conflicts in how that goes, but again, I'm going to get into some real details of how that really goes. Communal bathrooms at most places. There's a couple urinals, couple stalls, and then your showers are right next to each other. You don't get that much privacy. The door is always open, so you can hear everything going on. That's something you have to get used to. You have their families. You have the staff and the teachers that are actual teachers and on the board for the actual schools, living amongst the students and in the living establishments. They have their own separate unit that is still attached to the building of the actual dorm, living with their families right next to you, just a door separating the two. So that's a whole different story in itself, and how much of a change, and something I wasn't really used to, is that I have math class with one of my teachers, and then after class is done, the school day is done, we'd be walking back to the same direction. He'd be going back home, or her, to their families, which was very different. So that's a whole thing in itself. Everyone lived on the campus. People make jokes about how everything seems like it's incarceration. It's not even close. It's not that bad unless you're a weenie, in my opinion, because we have the free will to kind of roam around, unlike real jail. So it is not even close. But there are times where people feel trapped and whatnot, and that's kind of where you get the stigma and that nickname. So that's really how it is. Pretty straightforward. You got your uniforms, suit and tie. Everyone walk around, more business type professionalism in terms of the attire, and you deal a lot more closely with the adults because you're always around them. You have meals. You eat organized meals at the dining hall with them too. So there's that, different aspect. And it is a interesting experience. That's really the main part. And then it's just school. You have your periods, you have your break periods, this and that. Bang. Now, here's the crazy stuff that happened. I got through the normal stuff of what goes on in a prep school. This is for all boys, right? I'm not going to go into what I think of what happens with a co-ed or an all-girls school, because I didn't go to either. I went to an all-male, all-boys prep school. So I'm going to give it to y'all straight up. Straight shooter. It's all boys school. There are no women. There's probably 2 to 3 women on the staff. And you know how that goes. 15, 16, 17-year-old boys. You know what I mean? no girlfriends, no access to nothing. We really can't leave campus at all unless you're a day student where you go home. What do you expect to happen? Guys just want something. You know what I mean? So, jacking off, busting nuts. That is a topic of conversation for us just eating like at the dinner table. We just talk about that normally. That would not fly if it was at a co-ed or if there was women around. Just not the topic of conversation. But when you're in an all-boys school and you're in this masculine environment and in atmosphere, that's just what's going to come up. It is normal. It becomes normal. People talk about it like it's nothing. That's something that you're going to have to get used to. Some crazy things that I experienced. People find their ways to get off. It's crazy. It sounds weird, but it's the truth. People try to do whatever they can, try and get off. You know what I'm saying? I remember this one time. I'll save the best one for the last. When the advisor, the counselor makes schedules for the students, they understand that they make sure that your roommate, like let's say I had me and then my roommate, we had our schedules. They would intentionally make sure that one of us has a break when we're at the dorm and the other one is in class. That's not by accident. They make sure they know that these boys trying to bust. You know what I'm saying? We are given a break time, a break period, because there's no other time to be able to do it unless you're going to do it in the shower, which is probably the most common time. If you get that break, man, you're going crazy in there by yourself. You just got to hope they don't get out of class early, they don't get dismissed early, or else you're getting caught. Guys getting caught all the time. We had a dorm parent that was a female. People had a crush on her. That was a whole different story in itself. You know what I'm saying? Because people are so desperate. These boys are so desperate being in a place with nothing to release. This lady, she came into one of my neighbor's room. He thought he had a time where he was to himself. All of us were in the next room. She opened the door. He was doing his thing. Just bulged in his hand. She caught him. We all just were just crazy. Just laughing, stories at the lunch table the next day. This happens all the time. The dorm parent has to make their checks. They're just like a residential assistant at a college or a RA. If you understand or know what that is, they make sure and they monitor everything. They're catching dudes busting nuts on themselves all the time. All the time. I never got caught because I'm an OG. I was close. Never got caught. Guys find time. They just... You're 15, 17 to 17-year-old boys. It's a crazy environment. Crazy story, man. This is probably the worst that I experienced, man. You gotta realize that you're gonna do this at the most part at night because everything's quiet and it's dark and it's right before bed. Most guys just do it then, right? Blast it on themselves. Doesn't matter. You know, hopefully they wait till the other person's asleep. I'm gonna say, you know what I'm saying? I did it. I ain't got no shame. You know what I'm saying? I did it, man. That's the time you gotta do it. You gotta make sure, though, that the other person's asleep. You hear him snoring. My roommate, again, no name drop, no none of that. My roommate, we were sleeping, you know. I'm on one side of the room, he's on the other side. You know, he's got this little fan going on, a little background noise. I'm trying to fall asleep, and then I hear this man start, ooh. I hear him start making these weird noises. You know, he had a deep voice. He was a bigger kid. And I hear some... Man, that was crazy. Right there. And I had to listen to it the whole time. I couldn't go to sleep. I didn't have... At the time, I don't know why I didn't put in headphones. I should have put in music. I heard the whole thing start to finish. That was crazy at the same room. And you wake up the next day, say good morning. You can imagine how that would be the next morning. You know what I'm saying? That was normal. That was totally normal, you know. That's just part of everyday life. Another subject, toxic masculinity, lies. Everyone's trying to be the man, and everyone lies, and they try and boast about themselves and make these untrue statements about how their home life is and how they have all these women and chicks. At our school, we had long weekends where we were able to go back home. A lot of the students lived, you know, maybe 2-3 hours away. And the guys that, like myself, that were from the other side of the country going to these prep schools, we didn't get a chance to go home. So we'd have to listen to all these stories about how all our classmates, teammates, went back home and they were able to see these chicks and, you know, have orgies and do all this stuff. Total lies. Total BS. These didn't happen. But when you're amongst your guys... what's the thing you gotta do, man? You gotta flex. You gotta make sure that you're the top dog and you aren't just a weenie out there. Even though all these guys are weenies and they just went home, stayed at home, busted nuts in their own bed where they're comfortable, saw family for a little bit, got fed, and then they came back. But they made it seem like they went to the strip club, they went down to the city, they got all these women, and they had all these girlfriends and did all this. You're gonna see and realize real quick, guys are gonna make themselves look a lot better off than they actually are, just to get a step ahead and just to make sure that they're seen as the top dog, because everyone's trying to be the dude on campus, literally. So that's another case. Man, weird stories. A lot of different people from different backgrounds. I'm not a rich person. I didn't come from a very wealthy family, but you're gonna have a lot of these people that come from very, very wealthy families. They have their own different lifestyles. Maybe that's just a custom that I'm not used to. That they are. That's normal to them, but they would do some things that were different, that was normal to them, that may be a little bit different to me. That's a little bit more subjective, so I'm not going to really include that, but so yeah, that's another one. Drug use, smoking weed. I don't know about coke. I heard a lot of other schools where there were more co-ed and more boys and girls, there was a lot more use of coke, and that's kind of crazy considering these are 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. And that was normal to them. They say it's the rich man's drug, but hey, that wasn't really happening around where we were at. But obviously the weed is illegal. Man, this was like the funniest, but one of my most vivid memories. And hopefully I'm not giving away too much detail of what this really is, or what this school is, or what year it was. I'm sure everyone else does it, so hopefully I don't get singled out because of it. But I never smoked, but all the people in my hall did. We had this little system where people would all get together in one room. They would have this little fan, and this window faced out towards nothing. Like the window that faced out of the building faced towards nothing. So that was the perfect place to filter the air and to, get rid of the marijuana smoke. Because again, you have to remember that the RAs, or the dorm parents, were living on the sides of the building. So they couldn't smell or get a whiff of the smell of the marijuana or the weed, because that was going on another side of the building. So we'd get away and smoke the whole night. There was a system going on. They'd have a weed man. So you had to have a plug, man. You have to have a plug that was a local, that was around town. They'd be able to supply the marijuana. One of us would go down to the front of the school and get it. People would be packing in there smoking. We had a system going on. It was a whole crazy mess, and there were so many times that the dorm parents knew that we were doing it. They knew, and a couple of the people got taken to the principal or the headmaster, if we have a headmaster, taken to their office to see what's going on. But because this is kind of crazy, crazy business type of image that we got to make sure we don't tarnish our image of the school. They keep a head count and a number on how many people get expelled or how many people leave the school. And if you have too many people getting in trouble and getting expelled, it's going to tarnish the image of the school because of the numbers of the expulsion rate. They had to maintain that, because if they said we're going to get rid of all these kids for smoking weed during school or in the dorms, which is number one rule we are not allowed to do, it's going to mess up the image of the school. So they kept everybody. They knew that they were doing it, but they didn't make sure that they couldn't do it anymore. But we still did it, and we kept them, even though so many of my friends should have got kicked out, but they stayed because of just the image of the school, which is wild. Shouldn't have been doing it, but they got away with it. And, they're kind of at the mercy of something bigger than the school, so the dorm parents, that is, so they couldn't do that. So many theft, so much stealing. Like I said, a lot of these people come from really wealthy backgrounds. So many expensive sneakers, money just getting stolen. People knew who did it. No one, keep your mouth shut, no snitching, that type of deal. I went to school with students that were sons of NBA, MLB players, wealthy, powerful politicians, offspring, kids of from those families, crazy, they own crazy businesses, CEOs and whatnot. Went to school with all these kids, and it's just like regular life, corruption and people stealing. It's crazy. Oh, and then, I'm not gonna get into too much detail. I never see nothing crazy, you know what I mean? But there was some very strange, very questionable people that were at the school. There's obviously a bad image of some older men, if you know what I'm saying. I'm not trying to get demonetized. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with younger children. I didn't see nothing. I didn't hear nothing. But I did see a little too close of a relationship, of interaction with a select certain amount of people. I ain't gonna get into all of that. You know what I'm saying? It's none of my business. It's alleged. I don't know what happened. They could have been, having tea, talking about geography and the weather. Who knows? There's some gay people there. You know what I mean? They kept it to themselves. There are no crazy gay incidents that are actually homosexual or any of those instances going on. That happens. All boys school. Probably not having a ball, but I heard some crazy stories that I'm not gonna detail because that's just not my place to do that. That happened. Crazy fights. People were always fighting. Nothing malicious, but always a lot of fighting. A ton of racism. Like I said, we have a bunch of people from inner cities coming for sports, and then you have the rich lacrosse players or baseball players coming to the school. And they have their own type of culture where they're coming from. Blatant racism, especially on the East Coast. People coming from Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina. Just blatant racism. And no one's going to do nothing about it. But that's just the culture. All boys again, right? So, that was something that you may experience. But again, the teachers let you get away with a lot of stuff. This is old school. This is like tradition. Boarding school, prep school is tradition. A lot of hazing is what we do. You know what I mean? If someone, like I said, at my school, a little bit different. I'm not going to tell you exactly where it was, but there was a rule where, you can beat people up for doing certain things or breaking certain rules. And that's just, they allow it and stuff like that. So for the seniors to like the younger kids, just so they know and earn and kind of earn the stripes. Because they can do that to younger kids, to younger incoming freshmen or sophomores when they're seniors type of thing. It's crazy experience, you know what I mean? People busting nuts in the same room where I'm at, people smoking weed, and, we get a lot of, there's a crazy story, man. Hope this person ain't watching. We got access to this kid's phone, man. He's a younger kid, you know what I mean? We found crazy amounts. We were hanging out, and he had left the room. We had his phone, he didn't have a lock to it. What are you gonna do, man? We're just out here kicking it, nothing else to do. We're gonna look at this kid's phone. We opened this boy's phone, bro. He had so many pictures and videos of just the weirdest. Whoo! I'm not gonna get into it, man, but you can only imagine what was on that boy's phone. I wasn't there. I was sleeping because I'm a good guy. I'm a good kid. I wasn't in there, but one of my friends was recording what was on the phone. They never told him that they got access to his phone. They just said, hey, you left it, boom, here. Because they thought that if we found out what was on his phone, he might have, done something very bad to himself. Out of embarrassment. But we happened to see what was on his phone, and everyone knew. The people we knew, we didn't tell anyone because we weren't that messed up. Other people would have been jacked up and something really dire would have happened coming out of that. But, man, just crazy situations there, man. Some of the dorm parents told us some crazy history about some of the things that went on in the past of the school that, you can't really share. Prep school is an experience, man. To go along with all the weird and crazy stuff, that's what this video is mainly for. There was so much fun. I have built the closest relationships with some of those people to this day. And I learned some of the greatest values of my life being there. But at the same time, man, when you're in close quarters with someone for that long, you're going to experience some crazy things, and that's just real life. But hope that helped. Hope you all are looking forward to it, man. It's fun. It's a really fun experience. It's really good. As long as you make it good, you don't have a negative mindset. But just know you're going to run some crazy experiences, man. That's just how people work. And you're going to see it firsthand.